Hey everybody, welcome to YF 500 Foundations of Youth Ministry with me. I am Tom Combs and I'm your professor for the class. So I am excited to get started with you. I want to begin by just being a little personal since we don't know each other yet. You are posting or have posted introductions to yourself. So here's a little bit about me. I live in the small town of Rome, Georgia. If you're not familiar with your geography of Georgia, that's okay. I live right here in the northwest corner of the state. I used to live in the big city of Atlanta for a number of years, and about 3.5 years ago, my family and I relocated to this quaint little town nestled in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, where a couple of rivers come together. It's a really lovely place. We love our house, our neighborhood, our church. So I mentioned my family. We moved here a few years ago. Here's the family right here. This is my lovely wife, Wendy, who is a nurse by training and has started working with a ministry part-time called Young Lives, which is a ministry to teen moms in our community, which is fascinating, challenging, lovely, and all sorts of amazing things going on there. This is my middle school daughter, Ansley, who's 12 years old here, and this is our 9-year-old daughter in 4th grade named Lucy. So great ladies to be affiliated with. I really do love these girls. And so a little bit about me on a personal note right here. When you look at me right now, and you might be surprised to know this, but when I was in high school, I was tall and skinny. I was this guy right here on the track team. This is my sophomore year. And if I could describe me in just a few words as a sophomore in high school, I would say I was just looking for the place where I fit in. When I look back on my adolescent experience, that was probably one of the more defining questions that I wrestled with. Where do I belong? And thankfully for me, I found a group of people connected to the Ministry of Fellowship of Christian Athletes that helped me understand what it meant to have a personal relationship with Jesus. I was a churched kid growing up, but didn't know much at all about a personal relationship with Christ. So that was a defining aspect of my high school career. It was not athletics, because this is where I usually was in track practice, the guy bringing up the rear there. You fast forward many years. I work in full-time ministry. I'm married to this lovely woman here, and I have these girls in my household who represent all kinds of personality traits, fun, vitality, life. And I look at where I was back in high school as that tall, skinny, lost guy who didn't know where he fit in. I find myself belonging to this group of people right now. It just couldn't be a more dramatic change, nor could it be a better situation. So grateful to the Lord for where he's brought me through all these years. So that's a little bit about me and my family and a little bit of my journey there. I work for the Ministry of Young Life. If you're not familiar with Young Life is an outreach parachurch ministry that's committed to introducing adolescents to Jesus Christ and helping them grow in their faith. That's who we are. It's what we've been about for 75 years. Young Life has a presence in all 50 states in the U.S. and about 100 countries around the world. And I've had the privilege of serving on Young Life staff for over 20 years. I've been involved in direct ministry with high school students for a number of those years. And then I've also had the opportunity to train young people to be full-time Young Life staff. These are a couple of guys that are probably close to 40 years old now, but I met them when they were college students and trained them to be volunteer Young Life leaders, and they eventually became full-time Young Life staff. So that's kind of a cool part of my experience. Just so you make sure you know, I've got some decent education. I grew up in the South, in the suburbs of Atlanta. I went to the University of Georgia, and I actually got a degree in pharmacy. That was my undergrad degree. And I'm still actually a registered pharmacist in the state of Georgia. I have not been in a drugstore other than to be a customer for many years. So it would probably be scary if I was behind the counter, but I still have that pharmacy license in case I need it, because it was a lot of work to get that. So I maintained my license, but As I realized over time that pharmacy was not going to be my vocation forever, my love for kids was growing as I volunteered in youth ministry. I went to Denver Seminary and got a master's degree in youth and family ministry in the mid-90s, and then later in the mid-2000s, I went to Fuller and got a DMin in youth family and culture, rather. So a little bit about my credentials there. I guess you would say I'm kind of bivocational because I've worked in ministry, still work in ministry, have less direct involvement with kids, but I got my own middle schooler, so I am involved in ministry with kids. I serve on the parent committee for our youth ministry at our church locally, and then I work in parachurch ministry for Young Life, and then I teach some for Fuller Seminary. So I'm a little bit of a professor, I'm a little bit of a practitioner in ministry, and that's what has me here. So let's talk about the class. The purpose of this class really is to lay the groundwork for what ministry to adolescents is in whatever setting. And you're going to come into this class from a variety of backgrounds and settings with unique expectations. Some of you are working in full-time ministry. Some of you want to work in full-time ministry to adolescents. Some of you are in environments like Christian schools. Some of you are curious about youth ministry and you're not planning to work in youth ministry at all. Wherever you're coming into it, we're going to explore the foundational concepts that help us build ministry that connects with adolescents in whatever stage they are, middle adolescence, early adolescence, or emerging adulthood, to do the best that we can in the contemporary cultural context to help them grow into their faith and be on their way to being formed followers of Jesus. So that's going to be our overall purpose. That's going to be our goal. And the context for that kind of formation, even though I work in a parachurch ministry context, I'm going to emphasize this over and over again, that the goal of all ministry to adolescents is not just belonging, but really literally adoption into the church community. We'll talk more about what that means as we move along here. Learning outcomes in the class. I'm not going to read all of these right here. I think you can read through the syllabus where all this information is provided, and it's on Canvas, so you can go click on it as a Word document if you like and read through all of this. But our outcomes are consistent with our course purpose, so we're going to think through a number of elements that are related to adolescent culture, particularly adolescent culture in the West, how to think theologically about adolescence, and how to integrate those together so that we start thinking about ministry practices. We want to think about the history of adolescence. We want to think about the psychology of adolescence. And then we want to think theologically about adolescence so that our ministry is really integrated, or what we might call practical theology. So that's going to be kind of the framework we're going to create as we build on the foundations to create ministry to young people. Some of our course material, we're going to use 2 books primarily with a few other elements of some books added in. So the first 2 books are Adoptive Youth Ministry, which is edited by Chap Clark, a number of thinkers from diverse backgrounds who have contributed to this, help us understand what ministry is that adopts young people into the body of Christ, a pretty key and important value that we'll talk about often in the class. And then we're going to read Reciprocal Church, which is relatively new, written by Sharon Ketchum at Gordon College in Massachusetts. And I think it's a really sound, practical reflection on integrating or adopting young people into the church community. And it's really theologically sound as well, too. So that's going to reinforce some of the things we're going to read in Adoptive Youth Ministry. And then we're going to have some readings from Hurt 2.0. Some of you may have read this book in another class in youth ministry program at Fuller. We're not going to read the whole thing. There's just some select chapters that I'll have you read, just to make sure we have some of our terminology in common, so that we're using the same terms and thinking about the same things. There's some great summaries about adolescent development and some other key issues of adolescence, particularly adolescence in the West. We're also going to refer to or have you read a couple of chapters from this book, The First Year Out, which was one of the first longitudinal studies that looked at adolescents who transitioned from high school into either college or the workforce and followed up with them. And then we'll have some insights we'll gain from there to understand really some of the unique aspects of emerging adulthood. Tim Clydesdale, who wrote The First Year Out, this is going to be a little bit dated. You're going to recognize it when you read it, but I think some of the key concepts are important. He does have a more recent book, but I decided not to use it. I just want to use part of this book here instead of having you read an entire other book. We're also going to read a section from this book, You Are What You Love, by James K.A. Smith, that offers some critique about youth ministry in general, particularly youth ministry in the West. And I'll give you a chance to respond to that as part of one of our assignments. And then moving a little further, we're going to do something that I hope is suitable to you. I'm going to give you 3 book choices. So there's Saying is Believing by Amanda Drury. There's Exploding Stars, Dead Dinosaurs, and Zombies by Andy Root. And then The Soul of Hip Hop by Daniel Hodge. And the key thing I want you to bear in mind here is that you pick one. Just pick one of these. So if I'm not clear, you only pick one, not all 3. But you'll pick one about midway through the semester, or the quarter rather. You'll be divided up into groups based on which of these you picked out. So I'll match you up with people for within the cohort. All the Saying is Believing people will be in a little cohort. All the Exploding Stars people will be in a cohort. And all the Soul of Hip Hop people will be in cohorts. And this is for the purpose of discussing what you've read with people who've read the same material. So again, you're just going to pick one of these, and you can choose it based on whatever you want. It's preference, interest. Hey, this fits with my ministry setting. I've got kids that I work with in ministry who are really smart and scientific thinkers, and I want a good response to them. So however you choose, that's fine with me. I just want to give you the option of picking something that suits you or matches up with you. Okay, what's the format of the class? If you've had an online class with Fuller, it follows a pretty similar format. 10-week course, 10 units, 10 modules in the Canvas platform there, and they will follow this basic pattern here. There'll be an online activity. Usually, most of the time, it is a recorded lecture with me, and they vary from 45 minutes to an hour long in length. And then there's an assigned reading for that week. And then I'm going to ask you to make 2 forum posts each week, one in response to the lecture and one in response to the reading. And in each one of those, I want you to respond to your classmates' post as well. And I'll just say a quick word about that too, as we look at the sort of the weekly schedule, how it flows here. So basically, on Tuesdays, there's a forum post in response to the reading, and then there is a forum post on Thursday that's in response to the lecture. Then you have in between on Wednesdays and Fridays, you have forum posts that you respond to your classmates. And this is a key part of the class in my mind. Number one, you have an opportunity to articulate yourself what you have gleaned from either the lecture or the reading, and in response to the question that I ask you. And then you interact with fellow students to refine what you are thinking or what you gleaned from the reading based on what they've posted in their particular forum post. So I grade all of these. I read through all of them, and I try to give everybody at least one bit of feedback at least once a week in the midst of all those forum posts that are being made there. I just want to say this. There's more in the syllabus about how I grade those. Some people in some classes just get kind of a, sort of a check mark. You get 100% for just making a forum post. I feel like because the forums are a significant portion of the class itself, it counts for about 40% of the grade, I believe. I feel like this is where most of the work is done. And this gives me the best visual, the best insight into how you're processing the material in the class. So I think what I'm trying to say is they're really important. And because this is graduate level work, because this is really important, and I'm really looking for not just can you repeat back to me what you read, but can you show me that you are processing it, you're thinking through the implications of it, not just what it is, but why it matters. Those are the kind of things I'm looking for in forum posts, and they get higher grades. If you are good at telling me what you learned in the lecture or what you learned from the reading, that's usually about a B grade, somewhere in the 80s, which is fine. But I'm looking for really thoughtful responses that show me really, really good reflection where you are processing and can articulate the implications for what it is you're reading. And then the same thing happens when you interact with your peers. Now, I can tell how you're processing this information based on the way that you raise a question for them or you interact with a good point that they've made. So I really do keep a pretty high bar for forum posts, and I just feel like I need to make you aware of that because I know professors have different expectations and they make use of these different elements in the class in different ways. So that's how I view it, okay? Now, if you make a forum post that's late, I will, out of the graciousness of my heart, I will give you a chance to catch up the following week, but the best grade that you're going to get in that is 50%. So if you miss the forum post in the week that it's due, you've got a shot at getting at least 50% of the grade the following week, but after that, then everybody just gets a 0 for that. So I would encourage you to stay on track and do your best to kind of keep the rhythm of the class, which of course means too, as you're thinking about this, there's reading that's due every week. And if you just saw that the forum post on Tuesday is on the reading, you might be thinking, well, gosh, I only get Monday to read for that week. Well, actually, that's not true. You have to look ahead at the reading schedule, which is included in Canvas, and you read ahead, right? And then you're ready to enter into that week with that week's reading. So pretty low reading assignment in the very beginning, but again, I don't want you to wait till you click on Monday and find that you have a reading for that week and then scramble to get it done and then feel behind when you make a forum post on Tuesday and you watch a lecture, and another forum post on Wednesday in response to a student, and then a Thursday forum post, and then a Friday forum post. There's a good rhythm to the class, but you have to pay close attention and you have to stay on pace and you have to look ahead and know what your assignments are. Now, in my history, Fuller students and graduate students do this really well, but I'm just making sure that you hear me reminding you to stay on track. A little bit more about the course schedule. In week 2, we will have a 10-question multiple choice quiz over the reading from HURT 2.0 and a document that I've written called A Brief History of Youth Ministry in the West. So we're just getting our terminology straight, and I want to make sure that you have paid close attention to the terms and terminology in HURT 2.0. And I want to think about the history of adolescence and in the history of youth ministry in the West as a factor in thinking through how we got to where we are now in the current culture and in our current youth ministry iterations or versions. So this is just kind of part of the foundation for youth ministry. So I'll say this, it's not a difficult quiz, but the reason it's not difficult is because I give you a list of terms to know well in Canvas. So if you read through that list, you understand definitions and how to articulate those, you'll do fine in a multiple choice test, and most people do. But the reason people don't do well on this test, and some people don't, is because I don't think they take the terms very seriously and they just kind of blow through it pretty quickly and hope for the best. So I'm encouraging you to read through the key terms document that I give you, have good definitions of those in mind, and then you'll do fine on the quiz. The midterm project, in week 5, we'll cover material from the first 5 lectures and from some of the reading in the weeks 1 through 5. It's going to be a pretty cool assignment, I think. I like it. I'm going to give you a choice of 3 different movies that deal with adolescence in different contexts, and you'll pick one of those. You'll watch the movie, and then you'll write a paper that reflects on where you've seen some of the key ideas or terms from the class so far exemplified or portrayed in the main adolescent characters in the movie. So you can go ahead into week 5 if you want to and read that assignment ahead of time just to be familiar with it. And also, too, because you'll need to track down the movies either on Amazon or I don't think any of them are available on Netflix, but they're available on Hulu and YouTube. And I've given you links to all those, by the way, so you can find them. But just make sure you have the ability to watch those movies. Let me know soon if you don't. So you might want to go ahead and check out that assignment in week 5. And then our final project is not due on March 16th. That's a completely wrong date in there, and I just now noticed it. It is due December the 9th, perhaps. So you can look on the syllabus because it has the correct date there. Just didn't catch this change in my PowerPoint. But there will be plenty of detail. It's basically you have 3 options, whatever suits you the best, either writing a paper, you can create a final project either in video format or a narrated PowerPoint format. If you like to be more creative and artistic, you can use that side of your brain for this final project. If you like to type it out, you can use that side of your brain. If you feel like you want to do just a typical final exam, there's a comprehensive final exam test as an option that will cover all the material through all 10 weeks, and it will be a combination of short answer and multiple choice questions, and it's really up to you. I just want to create options for you to show what you've learned in a way that either suits you the best or fits you and your personality or your learning style. So that'll be available. So you can also look ahead to week 10 and you can see the requirements for the final projects. Another thing that I offer too is opportunities for extra credit. So throughout the class, there'll be sections in some of the modules, not every single week, but maybe 4 to 5 times throughout the quarter. There will be opportunities for you to watch a video or to listen to a lecture from some other source. And then you'll post a quick reflection on some implication or something that you've learned from that video or that lecture that I've had you watch. And every time you do that, I'll keep a running tally. And if you do all 5 of those, I'll add 5 points to your final project or your final exam when we get to that point for the grading. So it has the potential to boost your final grade decently. So it's just really great information. And instead of creating lots and lots of assignments for you, I'm going to let you decide whether you want to tap into these resources and learn some more and get a little extra credit for it. So it's up to you. How we grade it here, typical, we follow the Fuller Seminary guidelines for grading. The grade scale is there too, so an A grade is 93 to 100, A minus 90 to 92, B plus 87 to 89, etc. And those are also posted in the syllabus, so if you're ever wondering where you stand in terms of a grade, you get your grade number in Canvas as we go. It keeps a what would you call it, a running tally of your grade, and then you can know kind of where that fits in terms of your letter grade. And here's the breakdown of how everything contributes to your grade. So like I said, the forums are pretty significant, 40% of your grade. That multiple choice quiz in week 2 that I referred to is 10% of your grade. The midterm project where we watch the movies and respond in a paper will be 30% of your grade, and then either the final project or final exam, whichever you choose, is 20% of your grade. Okay, some other general thoughts here. I think if you have a question about the class, for example, occasionally there's some glitch with Canvas, and if you realize you can't get to a lecture or there's some problem, post it on course questions, the course questions forum of the class, because sometimes fellow students figure it out and they can respond and go, hey, this is how to do it. They may be able to get to you quicker than I can. So if it's a general question about the class or something's not working, post it there. I get notifications about that too, and I will respond as quickly as I can, but sometimes fellow students are quicker. Also too, you just might be asking a question in general about an assignment, for example, that other students have as well, and if I respond to you, it goes to everyone, and it answers everybody's questions. So that's a helpful part of kind of being an online learning community, is if we use that forum that helps answer questions for lots of folks. If there's some reason that I'm going to be away from my computer for a few days, I'll always let you know that I'm going to be slow in getting to grading forum posts or other assignments. And I just ask you to do the same thing too. If for some reason you're going to be away from the class for a few days, you can send me an email and let me know the story, and we can make arrangements. But I do want to make sure it's clear that this is something you need to approve ahead of time, because being really busy in your full-time job is actually common. It's not unusual and doesn't set you apart from anybody else. I have a full-time job in addition to this gig I have here as a professor for Fuller, so I'm with you. If you're working in full-time ministry or some other career full-time and you're doing an online class or two, that's a big load, but it's not a legitimate reason for checking out for a while. So if there's some reason like you're sick or there's some other requirement, let me know and I'll work with you on that, okay? Best way to reach me is typically by email, which there's my email address right there. You can also reach me on my cell phone if you need to. You can text me or call me. It's fine, but if you text me, I have not put all of your phone numbers in my phone, so I won't know who you are, so just explain to me who you are. But I would generally just prefer email unless it's something more urgent. But you're absolutely welcome to reach out to me, so I don't want you to hear me stonewalling you at all. If it's important but not urgent, send me an email. If it's important and it's urgent, then you can send me a text message, okay? If we need to talk in greater detail, we can also set up an appointment, and we can do that either via phone or through BlueJeans. We can do a video conference if we need to. If there's a group of you that need to talk about something, we can also do that. Those are often really helpful ways of doing that. Okay, just a couple more things here. I just want to encourage you to read through the course syllabus. Some things I didn't go through in great detail here, but they're spelled out in greater detail in the syllabus. There's also a weekly schedule that lists readings for every single week. It's also in Canvas, but the weekly schedule just has it all in one document. So you can look ahead and know what to read, and forum posts and other details there. And then lastly, I just would say stay on pace. We're at the very beginning. The class moves along at a predictable clip, and it's all spelled out for you in Canvas, but the key is budgeting your time well and staying on pace. So to that end, I've made a little video to emphasize and maybe create a metaphorical picture in your mind of what it means to stay on pace for the class.
Hey everybody, Dr. Tom Combs right here. You can't tell, I'm on a mountain bike right now. It's a pretty day in Rome, Georgia. Thought I'd go for a little ride. And while I'm on this ride, it occurred to me, there's some similarities between my mountain bike ride right now and this class. So we're just getting started. May seem like it's kind of starting slow, just like my ride does. And that's true. But things are going to pick up, okay? So just like I just came up this little hill right here, keep pedaling. All right, don't get behind. It's really key. I'm on a trail right now. One of the key things about the trail, you gotta stay on track. Get off the track, you end up in a tree or some less desirable place like that. So same is true for you. Stay on track. Stay focused. Stay on top of the assignments. And interact with me whenever you need to. Let's make sure that we make this a great quarter together. And let's enjoy the ride. What do you say?
All right. Here we are at the very beginning of the class. Looking forward to the rest of the journey with you.